Imagine walking down an isolated wooded path, the air thick with damp earth. Suddenly, a towering, dark figure darts between the moss-covered trunks just at the edge of your periphery. It's bipedal, incredibly fast, and it vanishes before you can even process what you're seeing. When we hear stories like this, our minds immediately go to one specific place: the deep, misty forests of the Pacific Northwest. We've been trained by decades of folklore to picture Bigfoot roaming through the sprawling old-growth timber of Washington or Oregon. However, the largest database of sightings in the world highlights a massive hotspot far away from the Pacific Northwest. Pennsylvania currently ranks third in the nation for Bigfoot reports, placing it ahead of dozens of more remote, heavily forested states. This chart shows the top 3 states for Bigfoot reports. Washington leads with over 2,000 sightings, and California follows with roughly 1,700. But sitting right behind them is Pennsylvania, with 1,340 reports logged in a state half their size. This chart shows the ecological hypothesis, the idea that sightings correlate directly with massive, unmonitored wilderness. In California, the dark green forested counties overlap with the highest concentration of reports, suggesting that a large habitat is a prerequisite for sightings. But while dense forests provide a place to hide, ecology alone doesn't tell the whole story. Pennsylvania has significantly less wilderness than states like Idaho or Montana, yet it generates hundreds of more reports. To understand these numbers, we have to look at how local geography shapes these stories. Similar to actual biological species, descriptions of unknown creatures seem to adapt to fit their surrounding biomes. Take the classic massive Appalachian Bigfoot and compare it to its southern counterpart, the Florida skunk ape, a creature reported to roam the subtropical Everglades. Witnesses describe a creature that is perfectly adapted to the swamps. It's reported to be shorter, around 6 to 7 feet tall, with reddish-brown hair and a distinctive, pungent odor that gives it its name. While environment influences the physical traits of these reported creatures, the data suggests that geography alone cannot account for why some states have such high report volumes. To track these frequencies, researchers rely on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO. This database contains thousands of investigated reports from across North America, providing the raw data needed for a deeper analysis. Since entirely different environments, from high-altitude mountains to sticky subtropical swamps, both generate massive report volumes, the missing variable driving these numbers must exist outside the physical ecosystem. In 2017, researcher John T. Chibnall analyzed the BFRO database to find the actual mathematical predictors of sighting volumes across the United States. This chart shows Chibnall's first major finding. Physical variables, like square miles of forest and clear weather days, account for only 15% of the variance in reporting volume. However, the study uncovered a much larger driver. Social and cultural variables actually account for a staggering 46% of the reporting variance, meaning a state's culture is 3 times more predictive of a sighting than its landscape. When we break down that 46%, we find specific cultural markers. States with higher rates of Bigfoot sightings correlate with high state-level religiosity, conservative voting patterns, gun ownership, and rates of UFO reporting. Psychologists frame this through a concept called explanatory belief systems. This is the internal framework people use to make sense of the world, interpreting ambiguous events through the lens of their own beliefs. In regions with high religiosity and rich local folklore, populations can be unconsciously primed to seek preternatural explanations. A sudden snap of a twig or a dark shadow in the tree line is much more likely to be interpreted and officially reported as a monster. This means that cryptid sighting maps are often sociological heat maps. They reflect human psychology and regional belief systems, rather than tracking hidden biological populations. This leaves investigators with a serious problem. Human perception is easily manipulated by pre-existing cultural beliefs, meaning an eyewitness account is often the least reliable piece of evidence available. To bypass this psychological bias, investigators have to rely entirely on objective, technical field research. You need tools that do not have imaginations. This is why modern expeditions require equipment like FLIR thermal monoculars. These devices identify objective heat signatures in complete darkness, removing the human tendency to mistake an odd-looking shadow for a bipedal creature. Researchers also deploy high-resolution audio recorders to capture and timestamp unexplained vocalizations. This allows sounds like wood knocks or strange howls to be preserved for impartial peer review. Finally, investigators must carry casting materials to pore over potential footprints. Preserving physical track evidence before rain or erosion destroys it is the only way to create a permanent, non-subjective record. Whether these wilderness hotspots are actually hiding a biological anomaly or simply acting as a mirror for human sociology, deploying scientific rigor is the only way to discover the truth in the woods.